Yeah. I'm showing 7 participants, is that right? That was your own, got Terry?
He's sitting beside me.
Who, okay. All right, is there any public comment for items not on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll go into new business. Review of FY23 budget requests, or we have a tentative schedule here. The first one being the ambulance. Terry sent out line numbers for us. Thank you, Terry. So according to the agenda that I have, that begins on line 639. I'll take a second and get there. Okay. So, Amy, do you want to walk us through the highlights of this?
Yep, I do want to, when we did on the back page, it didn't set the wage increase. So right now we have the 18 and then the COLA raise. So do you want the numbers on the increase of wages? So you have exactly what each are going to make?
Sure. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying, but maybe as you explain it, I'll understand.
The wages, so I'll go down. So you have our department head, that's just the regular COLA raise of 5.9 that you said to give. So down under wages, paramedics will go up to 19.
Okay.
EMTs or AEMTs will be 1738. EMTs will be 1654, and drivers will be 1515.
And what was the third one? I'm sorry.
Could you repeat them all?
Okay.
Yep. Paramedics will be 19. AEMTs will be 1738. EMTs will be 1654, and drivers will be 1515.
1550.
1515.
1515. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So that's the biggest increase for wages, and then the night call we increased because we haven't increased that since 2017 when we started giving night call pay. So with night call, it'll set in 3 stages depending on the license level. So drivers will be 50, EMTs 55, and medics and advanced will be 60 for the shift.
Okay.
Other than that, the only other real increase in our budget is we had increase in supplies, and that's because of the increase of cost of supplies, which would be $6,993 up to $4,000, and under equipment, we need to replace our IV pump because it's mandatory on our truck, and that's a cost of $2,500.
Okay. Questions, Jeff, Walter?
Let's see, line 675, training, education and training. That's the same as an 18-month, and it's a significant increase over the previous years.
So for education and training, our EMT classes are $1,200, and to send someone to EMT class, and our advanced classes are $2,200. So to put someone through an advanced and an EMT is what we're trying to put in the budget each year. So that's what we put in.
Got it.
Thank you.
Walter or Jeff, if you have those.
Yeah, I just wanted to calibrate so the hourly rates are appearing under an FY 21, January 1st to December 31st actual. So do they reflect a change from 2020 to fiscal year 2021, and they stay the same except for the COLA?
For the 2021 or 2022?
Let me phrase the question differently.
Okay.
How do our labor rates stack up versus the same job, and in fact, many of the same people in Thomaston and St. George?
So medics will make probably about $4 less an hour coming here than going other places.
Real, okay.
When you say medics, you mean paramedics?
So paramedics and the other places make between $20 and $24 an hour.
Okay, so when you use the word medics, that's a shorthand for paramedics.
Okay. So advances in other places, we're pretty close. We're within, I mean, in Waldoboro and some of our other places, they make 20 to 21. But they're also a lot busier than we are here. So, you know, we're close in the other aspects between drivers and advanced. Our lowest paid are our drivers, and there are some services that are paying, you know, 16, 17 for drivers because they have to, and they do transfers, and we don't do transfers other than off the islands. So.
Okay, thanks, Amy.
Welcome. Did you guys see what we collected this year so far? Have you seen our?
Haven't seen February ending yet.
So from then till now, we're at 116,975. So that's the updated for what we've made so far.
Terry, what was the 18-month budget for ambulance billings?
Let me pull it out.
No, I don't have that in the book. I think it was like 77,800.
77,800.
77,800.
So I have a question on the wages. If I did my math right here, if I take what was approved at town meeting for the 18 months, which was 239,133, and divide that by 18, and then multiply it back by 12 to annualize it, and then I apply the COLA, I'm coming up with a new total of 168. So the difference, if I did that right, so the difference between the 194 and the 190 and the 168 is increased hours for night calls and other things, or is that?
So it's increased the night pay. So our night pay was only $35 for someone to take call at night. So we increased the night pay to, like I said, the 50 for drivers, 55 for EMTs, and 60 for advanced and medics. So that's that increase also.
Okay, are there also increased hours in there though?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a combination of the COLA that everyone got, the increase on the night pay, and increased hours.
Correct.
Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is there any way we could just kind of break that down a little bit on a spreadsheet? Not today, but just so we can, before we go into.
Yep.
Because I think that's a pretty hefty increase. And it certainly tracks what you're doing on the revenue side. I'm not being critical. I just think that I want people to understand it. So that would be helpful.
Yeah, and with John, the night shift pay here, I've gone to hourly in St. George, so they get hourly pay there to get people. And in Thomaston, their night shift pay is, drivers are 65, advanced and EMTs go up from there and medics are 90. So we're not even close to night pay around us.
I understand that. I understand that. And actually, I'm a little concerned that we don't follow the Fair Labor Standards Act by, paying people under, paying people under when we're basically restricting them. I know they're home, but they can't go anywhere. So, so they're quote on the clock, so to speak. But okay. Any other questions, Walter or Jeff?
Yes, so Amy, I didn't see your February report, but during the budget period, calls are almost at the 2-year ago level. Is that correct? Which was a record setter?
Yes.
So there was a dip last year. There was a
We're
dip
back up.
there was a dip in year 1 of COVID. Then you started to come back in year 2, and now you're almost all the way back to where you were 3 years ago,
Yes,
which was that that trend that kind of broke the bank, if you will.
yep.
It does generate more revenue. So what are the factors that are driving the revenue increase other than number of calls?
We also increased our rates, and we also got a billing company that actually does their job.
That was behind my question. Thank you.
Sorry.
So that was that. So we should all slap ourselves on the back for that intelligent decision, huh?
So, yes, we can, I think. Back to this, I have a couple other questions. Salaries and stipends. I'm assuming this reflects the change that we made in leadership
Yep, it's right at the top. Mhm.
personnel. And so I know we had talked about a director and an assistant director and the captain, I understand, but the training stipend, does that go to that third position that we talked about, which I thought was a different title? Wow.
Yeah, so it should be deputy director instead of, and then the training stipend is the assistant director.
Okay, we get that squared away, Terry, for the budget committee. Again, my experience has been, it's these little bogged down these budget committee meetings, because when people aren't clear on exactly what is what, and we spend hours on stuff really sort of immaterial because they get caught up on, well, wait a minute, you said that one. So
So I've got a breakdown on all of it on an email that I sent to Carrie and David. So I'll break it down and put it on a spreadsheet. Send it out.
but as long as it's, what my request is that Terry, is that we label it the way it's currently on
So
the budget.
director and assistant director.
Yep, she's already fixed that.
Yeah, okay, great.
Thank you.
And the other question I had is, you put in a grant for, a request to the county for a piece of equipment. I don't recall what it was. Under their ARP funds.
Yep,
Can you refresh my memory what it was? And
it was a battery operated stair chair.
roughly how much was that?
It was $4,200.
Oh, okay. Is that reflected in here anywhere?
Nope.
Do you still need that?
Well, it was a wish list. How's that?
What does that mean? I
It
mean,
would make our job easier, but it's not something we have to have right now. Our IV pump is, we have to have right now, so that's why that's in here.
yeah. Well, I'm just wondering, if, that's something we should make the budget committee aware of. I understand it's a wish list, but I would also think that it would be sort of a health and safety assistance aid for employees. I could be wrong, but but I guess the crux of my question is that something that the town could fund potentially with its ARP funds?
Yeah, Thomaston just bought one for our ambulance over there through their ARPA funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I assume you say it's a wish list. I get that, but I assume that it's not something that's like this total pipe dream. It's something that you really could use. But
No, it's a stair chair it's kind of like the stretcher we got, but it's battery operated, so it'll go upstairs and downstairs with a button instead of lifting the patient up and downstairs.
well,
So
personally, I don't know that we need to include it in the budget, but at some point we're going to revisit discussion regarding ARP funds, and perhaps we should put that on our list, so to speak, of what we talk about, since it's not in here.
okay.
I think I'm suggesting that more to Jeff and Walter than to, but, okay, other questions? Are any of the,
Yes. Is there anything new to report on the regionalization committee or effort that you're engaged in?
That's kind of been on the hold. I think they're looking at district stuff with talking Camden, Rockland, Rockport area. That's about all I got right now.
So it's that area that's serviced by Northeast, whatever ambulance service, basically?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
and this is more a question for Terry, but I see on line 693, we've charged $1,623 for COVID supplies. Is that something that has been reimbursed by some grant or something, or is that something we could reimburse ourselves with our ARP funds?
Part of our last FEMA grant.
Okay, so it's already been covered.
Okay.
Can't do it twice. Okay. All right.
Darn.
That's the only questions I have. Jeff or Walter, anything else?
No, I'm good.
I'm all set.
Okay, great. So you'll try to put that spreadsheet together that kind of reflects the wage increases and the hourly rate and what's driving that increase, the COLA, the hourly rate increase, and the additional hours.
And then night shift, yep.
Yeah, okay, great. We good to go? Okay, let's move on. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, guys. I did give you my report, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I know I had that in there.
Okay, Brian, I see you here with David. I assume David was here to
Does David have?
support Amy or work with Amy, but I didn't expect to see you. You're certainly welcome, but are you here for you have anything you want to bring up, or are you just observing?
Just observing before I go into my FEMA meeting.
Okay, fine. I just wanted to call on you first if you were here to add. Excuse me a second, something just popped up on my screen and I can't see anybody. And I don't know how to get rid of it. Here we go. Okay. All right, I don't know what's going on. I got, the Russians are messing with my computer here. Sorry about that. Okay, next up is town roads, and that starts at 8:57. Thank you, Terry, for doing that. I'll walk down through this. As I kind of put it together, I worked a little bit with Jerry, he helped me out a little bit, and with Terry and some other folks. The road commissioner's stipend is just the COLA increase. I have added $500 for wages in case we hire somebody like Chet or someone to put up some signs or something like that on an hourly basis. I have budgeted $14,000. That's to install 4 culverts. According to Jerry, we should do 2 on the island road if we're gonna repave it. They're definitely not gonna last as long as the paving would last, and be a shame to go in and pave it and then dig it up to replace culverts, even if it's 2 or 3 years later. And 1 on Westbrook Street that Jerry told me needs replacement, and 1 sort of miscellaneous, if you will. I got a price from Jimmy Calick at $3,500 per. That includes all materials and stuff, patching or paving, and if it isn't, if it's not a road that's going to be paved, and flaggers, because both of those roads would require flagging, Island Road and Westbrook. I budgeted $8,000 for ditching and berm removal. That's not going to do anywhere near what we really should be doing, but we do have some severe areas where the berms have built up over the years, and the water can't get to the ditch, which then of course destroys the road. Bushing and limbing, I got an estimate from Hoppy's Tree Service. That's 5 days on Westbrook Street, which desperately needs some work. It's $9,000. It's not the type of trimming that Benner had proposed to the town, a few years back, basically going in and going back 10 feet on each side of the whole road, but it's more of a trim than a haircut.
You just cut, I immediately unmuted to mention how different those two numbers are. So you just explained it well. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's a different scope too.
Yeah, he was over $40,000. That was.
Yeah. And that's basically 5 days there. It's hard to estimate that. But then again, that includes flaggers, which are expensive these days, hard to get and expensive. And you need them on a place like Westbrook Street, or at least 1. Depending on where you are, you may need 2 there with those hills. And that's 3 days on the Island Road, which also needs quite a bit of trimming. Patching. We patched some of the worst holes around. So I've budgeted $2,500 there. We're trying to hot patch more nowadays if we can, as opposed to cold patch. It lasts so much longer. Roadside mowing and sweeping. That's actually mowing twice on Westbrook, Waterman's Beach, and Island Road, just once on all the other town roads, which we did last year. And there's some miscellaneous sidewalk sweeping and stuff in there that we had. The loam and seed is really if we do that project at the south end of Waterman's Beach Road, if you recall, the state wanted us to take care of the paving and the loaming and seeding if they did the construction work. That's kind of a guess, to be quite frank, because we're not sure, exactly how that's going to shake out. The other stuff I think is pretty much self-explanatory on the insurance. The supplies are no longer budgeted because we really weren't doing it that way. We used to, I mean, in years past, we would actually buy supplies and Jerry would have stockpiles of gravel or crushed stone or whatever, and that hasn't been going on for a couple of years. So that's why those are zeroed out. Signed, trying to keep up with those. Actually, I've been working, trying to keep those installed, and that's a kind of a continuous problem with people destroying them. Okay, under road improvement and paving, I have an estimate from Hager, 61.7 to 2 sections of Westbrook Street that keep potholing severely and the road is kind of falling apart. Brian knows what I'm talking about. And Hager advice is that we need to, we just can't keep overlaying those sections. So that's 61.7 was a proposal to come in and basically reclaim 4,300 square feet and regrade it, recompact it, and repave it prior to an overlay. So that's something that I just wanted to bring to your attention. I know it's a stretch dollar-wise, but I think in the long run, it may be something we need to work on. And then on the next line, paving in general, I have $6,400 budgeted, $64,000 budgeted to repave the Stump Dump Road, which is really getting tender and breaking up, and the Village Road, which also needs paving. It's also breaking up and starting to lose it. And actually, I forgot to put the paving in, and I would request increase in the department headline and increasing that to 68,000 because I forgot to put in the $4,000 for paving, which is kind of a guesstimate as well. If we do that Westbrook project, I put in the loam and seed, but I forgot to put the paving in there. So my apologies on that. Snowplow contract kind of is what it is.
I'm sorry, you mean the Waterman Beach project,
That's right. What did I say?
Westbrook.
Yeah, no, I meant Waterman Beach, right? Sorry, thank you. That's it. I have other things that I talked with Hager about. I mean, to be honest with you, the road that goes in by Travis Wilson's is a mess and it's getting worse. He did give me a price to pave the Bartlett Lane, $12,000. I can't recommend that we do that. He's bringing big, heavy trucks in there, tearing it up. I think if we do anything there, and both Jim Calick and Hager agree with me, as long as Travis Wilson's in there with those heavy trucks, we should just, if we do anything, we should just tear up that broken up pavement and leave it gravel. Because it's just going to get, if you pave it, it's just going to be destroyed in 3 or 4 months with what's happening there. And so I didn't include any repairs there, but that's in rough shape and really needs some ditching. I was maybe hoping that if Travis is using it so extensively that we could get him to help us fix it up a little, but I don't know. Also, well, I got a bunch of prices for some other shims and overlays, but I won't bother you with them at this point. Because I think this is already a stretch, a bridge, probably a bridge too far, but questions? Hello?
Hey, John,
Yeah.
is there other paving that we're hoping to do this year or is that included in this?
Well, the paving that we were hoping to do this year that we have talked about last meeting or 2 meetings ago is well, of course, if the Island Road project happens, which I assume it's we're gonna pave those 2 construction areas. And then we also have locked in with Hager to pave the balance of Island Road and to fix that swale down there by Atkins. And I've included in that about, if you go on to Rock Ledge Road, like the first couple hundred feet, the road's really delaminated right there as you go up the hill. So I've sort of included that in that, just a, 150 or 200 feet there. So we have that. I'm hoping that I got a price from him to repave the basketball court, but that's all under the grant and the donations and stuff that we got for the tennis basketball court repairs. And then I asked Terry to put in the municipal budget, the paving around the fire station. And then I'm requesting whatever I do as a department head, that we also do the work that is reflected here. The Waterman's Beach, the stump dump, the Village Road, and the work on Westbrook Street. So that's quite a bit of work, but it's work.
Yeah, my real question is the total that we're going to spend you're anticipating we spend this year and what you've got in this budget. And what I'm really looking at is how much of that's going to be able to be, how much of it's not going to be covered by our reserves.
Yeah, I don't, Terry, what do we have in the paving reserve? I think after the Island Road project, it's pretty much zeroed out.
I think there's 100, well, there's a discrepancy. I think we say, I sent it to you yesterday. Let me see if I can find it again.
So $40,000, which was estimated for the Island Road project paving, was removed from the reserve and put in a designated account. So don't lose sight of that.
Right, but I don't think it was,
And then there's the residual reserve, which I agree with you, without any basis in fact, will probably be consumed by paving the rest of Island Road.
yeah, that was the plan. And Terry, I think why we're coming up with a difference is I don't think the 40,000 was, we've gone around this before. I don't think it was physically removed from the reserve account, which it doesn't need to be as long as we keep track of that. It's accounted for, as Walter said, as that carry forward.
Okay. So it just wasn't put,
Yep, right. And it doesn't need to be either. I mean, you don't have to, as long as we account for it, you don't have to set up another physical account, but
so according to Creel, there's
Walter's right, you can't lose sight of it. I think that's the discrepancy. We talked about that before, remember?
Okay.
Terry,
That's a sure way to cause double, if not triple counting of things.
yeah, and we certainly could set up a separate account too, but I mean, how many accounts do you set up, so.
It'll all be over in June.
Yeah, hopefully. So, so the basic answer is, Jeff, once the Island Road's done, we have no reserve. Matter of fact, we were short a few bucks. We transferred from surplus. If you guys authorized pulling some money from surplus, if you remember. So the other thought I had was, it might be worth taking a 2 or 3 year loan to kind of cover some of this stuff too. And I guess it's not quite as bad as it looks financially because, last year we put what, 50,000 into the reserve, 54,000, something like that. And of course, I'm not recommending we put anything in there this year because I'm recommending we try to do some of this work. So that takes a little of the sting out of it, so to speak.
We'll use some of our next ARPA funds.
Hmm?
Can we use some of our next ARPA funds?
I know they loosened up the eligibility, but I'm not sure they loosened it up for road work and stuff. Jeff might have some insight on that because you attended a workshop, didn't you? Or
Yeah, Terry and I both did. Basic road work is a stretch, be hard to justify, but they specifically mentioned culverts.
huh? Really? I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that got added into what was eligible, but they did open up some construction work for roads, specifically dealing with floodplains and water discharge and stormwater
Oh, okay.
mitigation.
Yeah, that makes sense then.
And so they highlighted that that culverts was an easy one to justify.
What about paving around the public safety area?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at it, but
Yeah.
as I recall, Terry, you can correct me, but they indicated that normal paving would be very difficult to justify, although they did say you could try to justify anything you want to. Here's the end of that discussion is that you can do it ahead of time, and until you do the report in 2 years, and they audit it and go through it and make a determination, we're the determiners of whether or not it's eligible to expend, and all they might do is claw some back at some time in the future.
So in other words, we could use them as a loan.
They also opened up the loss factor that you can have a $10 million loss and use that to make up lost revenues. That seemed really, 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 really vague. I mean,
Yeah, well, we went through that too, and we didn't really have a loss revenue, right, Terry? I mean, didn't you go through?
that doesn't matter anymore, John. Everyone's got was it $10 million loss?
Yeah, that they now have added a category. You can either justify all your loss, or you can take a standard loss of $10 million.
Oh. So we could take all our money and say it's.
And that's how they opened up some of the construction areas, is that you would do it under that particular.
So it's sort of like a standard deduction on your taxes.
Exactly.
There's an assumption that you have. Yeah, interesting. Well, any further comments or questions? You want to think about this a little? You want to take it to the budget committee as is, and let them kick it around? I'll be honest with you too, is just as we were going through this, need to verify with Hager that if we do that reclamation work on the 4,300 square feet, that includes repaving that. I'm not sure that it does, but it's not a huge area. So, but I was just looking at his proposal there and I was a little confused. So, the other option is, we could just repave those bad areas or just continue to patch them. I don't know if anybody drove Westbrook Street. There's some bad potholes that keep reappearing in those two sections, and the road's just sort of drifting apart there.
Yeah, for all the attention that Island Road gets, I would argue that Westbrook is our most unsafe road in town and needs care.
I would agree. I also I'll broach it right now. It's not really a budget, but I, as interim road commissioner, I may be coming to you folks. I've talked to a few truckers about posting that road year round to heavy trucks. I mean, we have alternatives. They can go around on 131 and Dublin Road, and I've driven them, and there's really no difference in time-wise Dublin Road, and that's a state road. And 131 is, and 73 is an alternative as well, you know? So, I mean, we keep putting money into that road, and then they bring a lot of heavy trucks across it. I know, for example, Waldeboro posts the whole old county road, the entire length of it across North Waldeboro. So anyways, that's a discussion.
John?
That's a discussion for another day, but
John?
yes.
Okay, so the last, what I'll call normal run rate year for roads was 2020 at 169,814. And now 332,256 shows up. What story are you going to tell?
The story I just told you, that that there's work that needs to be done, and some of it is saving what we have before it deteriorates further. And also, I don't know if there was I would have to check this. Was there a capital reserve fund contribution that year? So that would mitigate that increase. If you kind of look at those two things together, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know you're prepared for the argument. You just made we've kicked the can down the road 2 years in a row. Why not kick it down a third year while inflation is rampaging and oil is $117 a barrel? So I think what you're saying is solving the problem a year from now is going to be worse, and it's more hazardous during that period than fixing it now.
Yeah, and certainly, I mean, do we have to do some of this stuff? Like, the answer is no. I mean, we don't have to, but the way I look at it is if you got a leaky roof, you got to fix that first. And roads are in some ways the same way. If you don't fix the roof, then the base goes to hell. So.
Yeah, and I'll point out that actually the budget for 2020 was 287,000 plus 50,000 into reserves. So it actually, as far as the impact on the budget, it's almost the same. It's hardly any increase.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, and if you look at 2021, that number is pretty close to the previous one, and that's because we only pave. Most of our road work goes on during the summer, and we didn't have 2 summers. We only had 1. So it's not an 18-month effect, really. It's a 1-year effect. So I actually don't think that this budget is all that out of line as long as we're not putting anything into the paving reserve.
Well, do you want to, I'm putting my selectman's hat on now. Do we want to make any adjustments under the select board column? I do need to check that. I want to check my request on the Women Beach thing, adjust that by 4,000, and I want to double check on that Westbrook Street thing that I talked about, whether that included the repaving that 4,300 square feet. I'm hopeful it did.
No, except for that, I'm good with it the way it is. I will say there's a lot of opportunity to fund some of this from surplus because if you look at the budgeted 20 to the actual 20 and the budgeted 21 to the actual 21, there's some pretty significant differences. We underspent like we do every year in this particular budget. we put culverts on there and we don't put them in, or there's a lot of room in this that we're charging the taxpayers twice for the same action. So we can get a lot of surplus. We can use a lot of surplus for this.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jeff, and I'm trying to reconstruct this from a historical perspective that was not based in a reality. I don't want to say reality, but okay.
So Terry, can we get the surplus number before we meet with the budget committee?
You're not going to have that.
She
After,
gave that to us.
you're not going to have that until July.
Right. The existing is 156,058.
Right, well. Oh, because I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
Duh.
so that's the downside of doing a budget before your fiscal year closes. But we certainly know where we underspent, and we certainly know how much surplus we used in the previous budget. And we certainly know how much revenue. I mean, we're gonna have to do some forecasting.
Yep.
On surplus, as opposed to having the auditor hand us a nice firm number. Okay, we good to move on?
Yep,
Okay, what's next?
nice work, uncompensated road commissioner.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Unfortunately, the whole environment of the oil prices and inflation and stuff makes this a tough year to make that transition. But anyways, solid waste. Oh, another not good line. Where am I? 976, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I put this together with Terry, and again, Jerry a little bit, and Jimmy Callick helped me out. We're going through some changes here in a couple of different ways. One is the governance. Jerry has always sort of done this as part of his road commissioner's job. And I have budgeted a separate stipend for a couple $1,000. I'm hoping that we can get someone who will sort of take over that operating job, maybe an existing employee. I've had a conversation with a couple of folks who might have some interest, but I do think we need to compensate them. We do have to have an operator under our permit or licensing manual, or whatever you want to call it, from the DEP. Doesn't have to be compensated, but so anyways, I threw a couple grand in for that. The demo wages were just the COLA for Dana, same hours, no changes there other than the COLA. I did throw in $1,250 for some other wages. I initially had thought that we might we might have some needs out there that either Chet or Ralph Demons or someone like that could do. But I'm not sure we even need that, actually. Now that the more that I think about this, and the more as it developed. The demo removal is the numbers we got from DMJ that we just upped their contract the other day. The operation and burning, that's up a lot. And that's up a lot because we were living in a world where, quite frankly, Jerry was doing this at way below market prices. You know, he was taking his backhoe, that old backhoe out there, and going out and tamping the can down, and would either bill Terry minimally or forget to bill her. Terry, sometimes you had to prod him to get anything, right?
Yep.
So I got a price from Jimmy to do it. I was worried that, you know, Jimmy's doing it now because he has his backhoe out there in the salt shed, but I was worried that come summer, he wouldn't be able to do this even at the price that he's charging us now, because his backhoe wouldn't be out there. He'd have it out on job somewhere. summer construction job. But he said he would do it for the same price that he's doing it. So we estimated, the number of times it would have to be done per year. And then we threw in some time for the excavator to pile up the pile and burn it. That's the other reason those wages are there too, is that if we need someone to sit out there, we might have to pay them like a fireman or even Chet or someone perhaps who's on our payroll, but I don't know what he's doing, how he's going to be able to work on that or not. The rest of it, I think, is pretty much what it was until you get down to the disposal fees. Those are based again from DMJ, based on the tonnage that we typically haul out of there. And actually those fees, he doesn't even control. Those are fees that he's charged and then of course passes back on to us. And then the transfer station number, I assume, needs to be adjusted based on the discussion we had the other night.
Yeah.
I don't know what that new number would be.
I'll look at that today.
You know what I'm referring to, Walter, how you guys made the adjustment and you said you're going to push it into next year?
Yeah, well, we only, right. So, but the 187.53 that she has in there is a slight increase over our original assessment for our calendar 2022. The next thing will be for us to come up with a real 12-month budget, and we're up against the time constraint to do that. So I would leave that in place as is right now. But I think it's going to be higher when all is said and done.
Okay, yeah, and again, I don't even know where the 187.53 came from, Terry. I think you would prefix that.
It's built on a 177,309 number that was the original assessment, and I guess Terry increased that by a percentage or so. Is that right, Terry?
Yes, it's 6 months at 14,767.42 a month, and then I increased it to 15,358.08 for 6 months.
Oh, for the back 6 months. Okay.
Right. So, Terry, you ought to go tell Kara George how to do this, because
I just guessed. I mean,
yeah, well, you guessed correctly. she guessed $10,000 wrong. They're going to have to cough up.
So that's it on that. I mean, there's we can look for an alternative way. I did talk to Ralph Demmons. He has a small backhoe, whether he would be willing to work out there with his backhoe. He lives right down the road, but he feels, and I agree, I thought this is the answer I was going to get, that his backhoe, it's just a little Kubota or something. It's just not big enough to handle what we need to do out there. We really do need to tamp that can down, because if we don't, we're going to be sending light loads because of the way it gets loaded. And so I guess it would be interesting to see if the actual work of tamping it down pays for itself, but I don't know how you do that experiment without taking a year and not doing it. So, but I gotta believe, given the cost of hauling, that it's worth it. So he's charging us, I think, $90 per operator and the backhoe, which, again, we weren't anywhere near those market prices. So, okay, any other questions? I'm putting my selectman's hat back on. Actually, I don't even know why I sort of took over the transfer station. I guess because Jerry did that. Walter, Jeff?
All
No,
set?
I think all your assumptions in this are pretty reasonable. And we are up significantly from 2020.
Yeah,
But half of the increase is, probably more than half of the increase is directly related to the transfer station as opposed to our dump.
I do think that, does it make sense for the three towns to look at consolidating in one site? I know a lot of people aren't gonna like that, because when you're hauling brush down the road and stuff, you know, you hate to go over under Route 1 and because it's hanging out the back of your truck and but I don't know. And you know, and the other thing is, quite frankly, given the wage we're paying out there, we're not gonna find somebody if Dana, I mean, for 2 days a week at that rate, you know, I got thinking about that, and that's gonna be almost impossible to fill, I think. So. Okay. I guess we're moving on. Quiet group this morning. Town landing. Where are we there?
383.
383. Terry, is this something you just did? I wasn't
I
involved.
did my best. I don't know who, and I probably should, I don't know who took the float out this year. So I didn't know who to have to get information on pricing it.
Yeah, Jerry, I think Alex did with, call Jimmy. I think Jimmy, Chet did it with Calyx excavator.
Okay,
And I'm not sure we got properly charged. So I would urge you to give Jim a call, and Jimmy was pretty good with, you know, Chet basically had a truck. Chet's not working for him now because of health issues and stuff. And Chet had that, basically an excavator, if you will, at his disposal. And I think sometimes it got used a little bit.
I think so too.
Yeah. I don't want to go much further.
So I just put in half of what we budgeted for our last budget, because that was for two springs, right? I'm getting lost in the years. I don't know, repairs have been done forever. Well, $113. I don't know what shape the float's in, what it needs.
Well, I would definitely leave some money in there. I mean, if something gets broken or a railing or a step, I mean, you need some miscellaneous unanticipated I don't know that we need 150 and then an additional 300, but
I know for sure trash removal is $265.
and the portable toilet is fixed.
Yes, yep,
Who does the trash pickup, Terry?
Judd.
He's retiring.
Oh, no, he can't.
I don't know when, but he is.
Oh, goodness. And I put money in miscellaneous because we buy the trash bags and we put them in the bottom, and he puts them, replaces them. Did,
Well, we
Jerry-
only spent 24 bucks there though.
we had some left over. I don't know if he wasn't removing the trash as much, but he's been doing it more lately, and he said both cans are out of bags, so we're gonna need more.
Okay, I'm not gonna, and all of this is funded with that boat excise fund anyways, right?
Right.
So my suggestion would be is that maybe someone needs to take a look at if we need some repair work or anything down there. I don't know, maybe Jeff, you could wander down there. look
Yeah,
out,
it's not a problem.
yeah, and look at the float, make sure we don't have broken stuff there, or if we do have something, maybe Ralph could give us an estimate, Terry, on fixing something there. And then I would call Jimmy and ask him what it's gonna take to put the float in and out. Because in this year, well, no, we're gonna put it in. Wait a minute,
We're gonna put it in this budget we're in.
yeah. And then we're gonna take it out and then put it in again. So we do need it in and out.
Yeah.
Okay? Are we good on that then? Do we want to think about budgeting any money to move that study forward on the reuse plan down there, or just a question? I mean, a few,
Sandra called yesterday looking for the plans.
yeah. I mean, that may be premature, but I'm not hearing anything, so I'm moving on.
Yeah, I think the first step there is to get interested and talented people that are passionate about doing something there to get together and come up with ideas. And that's been lacking.
Okay. All right, next is administration. Hey, I'm off the hook. I assume that's line,
2.
Terry?
Well, for the salary and wages, I just did the COLA. Health insurance I had all figured out, and then you changed it, so I had to refigure that with the town paying 90% of health insurance and 80% of dental.
Well, we can change it back if you want.
That's okay.
If it was that much work.
It's all done.
Okay.
All worth it. A moderator's been $100 forever, I'm not sure. I guess it's still the same. And I asked Mindy about the audit, she said it'd be $6,100. With a copier, the lease is what the lease is. I did add a little extra for overage because we seem to be going, I print things where Chelsea didn't print things. I like to have it in my hand. We didn't, mostly all our legal fees that we spent this year were either ARPA funds or Northern Borders. So I just pulled a number out of the air. I put 5,000 in there. You can go up or down. Trios had an increase. They're pushing for, that's the increase for next year, but they're also pushing everyone to go to web-based. Their new program, which is a lot more expensive, and I'm in no rush to change. It'd be a challenge. Our other software programs are Microsoft. I wrote them down here. Our antivirus, our backup, our domain renewal, and Microsoft licensing is in that line. Tech support is expensive. I talked to Gus, he said they were gonna go up on their rates. If people kept their passwords where they needed to be and could remember them, it would save us money, because every time someone needs a new password, it costs us $25.
Who's losing their password? Me?
You among others, John. But I think they're a lot more expensive than like Rockbound, but they are very responsive. Anytime I call, they call right back. They're very helpful if you have a problem. I know they've helped Brian many times with his laptop and you lose a connection and it's way beyond us to get it back. So they are very, very good, but they are not cheap. Credit card fee is credit card fee. If we're gonna have town meeting at the school, we would not need to rent a porta potty or a sound system, so that line could be zero.
Yeah, I'm thinking, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, I'm happy to make it zero. And Zoom is $14.99 a month. And I assume we're gonna keep doing that, so we'll have to pay it.
If we do the town meeting in the school, though, the acoustics the last time we did it were pretty poor. People couldn't hear in the back of the room, so AV, I don't know whether they have one or we'd have to bring our own, but that should be a consideration.
I can call Ben and ask him.
Yeah, and if we can't, then maybe what's his name can set something up for us. We can get a number from him.
It was, I think, $600 last time.
Wow. Oh, and so 190 was for the porta potties and stuff?
Yep.
Wow. We need
Uh,
better voices.
It might have been $650. But it was around there. None of the rest was the porta potty.
If Penny's on, I'm wondering if she agrees with me about that acoustics problem in the room. Huh, I guess she just
Well,
managed. Sorry, Penny.
I'm here. I think it was better at the school than the airport hangar. There is a limited PA system that the Historical Society has that we could possibly use for free. It includes a clip-on mic that the board could pass around and the moderator holds, and if someone came up. But I tell people to sit in front. You want to hear, wear your hearing aids and sit in front.
That's right. It's the old Catholic school, sit in the front so you won't get called on approach. Thanks, Penny.
Terry,
Good to go.
I don't feel you need to walk down through each one of these small things here unless you want to call our attention or is something, is it maybe?
No, I'm good.
I mean, that's just me personally. I'm assuming I don't need to hear about the PO box rental fee. I mean, you know, but
How about if I just say, do you have any questions?
well, unless you want to call something to our attention.
No, I don't think there's anything really big in there. Sure.
This includes the performance awards at a lesser level in the FY20 budget. Was that a conscious decision or?
Well, we don't ever seem to use it all.
Walter, you got any thoughts on this? I know this is near and dear to you.
I think we didn't, and I'll take a lot of the responsibility. We didn't institutionalize that particularly well. And it's not clear to me that it has achieved what I was hoping, and Jan was hoping that it would.
So do we want to recommend a change here? I mean, I guess I was kind of opposed to it and on a principle, but I have to admit, when Jerry retired, I was very happy that we could give him a little severance, which really wasn't a performance award. So So I don't know. Jeff, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I feel very strongly both ways. Performance awards are one of those things that if you do them right, they're very worthwhile. But typically they're not done right. So I can go either way on this. This is not something that I have hard over feelings either way. I do like having the ability to recognize over and above achievers. And so I kind of lean towards leaving something in the budget for it.
Well,
Yeah, that's always been my feeling. It's the completely unexpected, or if not unexpected, exceptional event. My first and favorite was David Elwell getting that recognition from the state or wherever. So leaving something in there would I'd go along with.
okay, well, why don't we leave it as is for now? Kick it around with the. Can I jump back to the benefits for a second, Terry?
Yep.
Never mind. So I was looking at the health insurance. I was wondering why one was 17,195, but it just dawned on me. So, okay. All right, we good with this? All right, let's move on. Conservation Commission. I did get an email from Sandra yesterday that I didn't see until this morning, questioning whether or not this meeting was in Zoom or in person or on Zoom. I emailed her back this morning quite late, just before the meeting actually, and said it was by Zoom, because she said that in her email that I got yesterday, that I didn't read until this morning, she said that the vice chair, Spencer, I can't think of his first name.
Henry.
Could attend, but he was having computer problems, but I don't know. But I don't see him, and you haven't heard from him, Terry, or anybody else?
No,
Okay, so line 253.
yes. And these are numbers that Theo sent me. Couldn't make it today, so she did say she was gonna send somebody.
She did say what?
She did tell me she would send someone to the meeting, because she couldn't make it, but I
Okay,
never heard of anyone, and I guess I let it fall through the cracks. I didn't
Yeah.
follow up.
well, I personally don't have any questions. Anybody else?
No, I'm good with this.
Walter?
I'm fine.
Okay, let's move on. Assessors. Line. Sorry, 158. Okay. So Terry, you want to walk us through?
I think really the biggest increase is, the employee health benefit. We're paying 90% now, plus they had an increase, and the assessing agents themselves, Ron went up. What's his name, Ron? Can't remember his name. But he went up from 625 a day to 650.
So that employee health is a portion of Phil?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I can remember they started doing that because I think I was helping Burr. when they first split, paying some under admin and some under assessors, and I don't know if you want to keep it that way, or Phil does very little to help the assessors. I mean, he might input a little bit of information and vision occasionally, but it's not like they do more of the administrative typing stuff than Bert did. Bert would hand things over and ask them to be entered. But I don't know if you want to keep it that way because that's what it's been forever, or put him all under admin.
That's my recollection too. When Bert was there, Terry, I thought you were sort of, for lack of a better word, kind of the administrative assistant to him in terms of typing and data entry and that was all being charged to admin, and the thought was, well, that's not right. If Terry's spending, you know, a third of her time or whatever it was, a quarter of her time working for the assessor, then that should be appropriately allocated to that department. So if that's changed, I think the rule personally stays true. You know, it should be properly allocated. So I don't know if you have a sense of how much time all three of you, for lack of a better word, spend with the assessor. But also remember, if people come in and they want to look at property cards, I mean, you got to kind of count that time too.
Oh, that's true.
You know, I hate to overcharge admin, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, 75% and 25%, I guess. If you look at everybody's getting cards, you could stretch and be okay.
I'm thinking maybe we should leave it the way it is for one more year and then have, maybe you kind of just sort of take stock of it over the course of the year. And I don't mean to do an analytical thesis on it, but just sort of be conscious of, you know, what maybe is the appropriate allocation for another year. Is people good with that?
Yes. Yep.
And we got to remember with Phil too, his health insurance went, I mean, he crossed that 5-year mark. So he went from the single to the eligible for the family. So it isn't just the 90% increase.
Right. This is, yep.
Actually, so when we get to the budget committee. Okay, we good to move on? Capital expense.
1346.
Thank you. Oh, 13, sorry. Okay. What do we got here?
Well, we have, Gus is encouraging us to replace the server. With PC.
What's that?
And
What's the EMS PC?
the one in their room where they do their run sheets and all that stuff. In the ambulance room,
What's it? What's PC?
computer.
Oh, okay.
Personal computer.
Personal computer, okay.
When we were having trouble with our phone with all the rain, which we haven't had trouble with the last few rainstorms. Gus happened to be here, or Phil was talking to him on the phone or something, and he said he could set us up with a phone system that would be over the internet. It would be $27.79. I was kind of skeptical of it, but I put it in the budget just to let you guys know that that option's out there.
Who's your telephone company?
Telco.
Really? So when,
Lines that are call consolidated communication.
I'm sorry?
They say the problem is the lines, which is consolidated communication.
Well, but, so it's Consolidated or Fairpoint's wire?
Yeah,
That's weird. Okay, so when they initiate fiber, all of their landline telephone users are going to be automatically converted to voice over IP. So we might want to take a look at that. In September or whenever they start offering their service. But you also might want to take a look at, we might also take a look at their internet service.
yeah. Well, just so you guys understand, this phone problem's been going on for 10 years.
At least.
Yeah, every time it rains, not every time, but when it rains heavily, the phones go die, or have trouble. You got to call telco because Consolidated won't come out until telco comes out. So telco comes out every time. Correct me if I'm wrong, Terry. And says, nope, it's a Consolidated problem. So this has probably happened, what, 200 times over the last 10 years. And then Consolidated comes out and fixes the problem.
Right, that's the classic multi-vendor dilemma, the finger point.
Yeah. And I guess that's Consolidated's policy, but basically, I actually, the last time I was in there, I heard this problem. I heard Phil very sternly say to the guy, "You make me do this every time, and it's always your problem." So I don't know if Consolidated is now coming directly without telco coming, or
Yes, the last time they did come directly. And the last rainstorm, we didn't have any problems. So I don't know if maybe they finally fixed the issue.
Yeah. But when we started talking about Consolidated and internet, that was the first thing that came to my mind is we've had this problem for 10 years. They haven't fixed it. So
I have it too sometimes. And it has to do with not having conditioned lines. Because how old are they?
Oh,
we've had the problem a long time.
They go, I mean, those wires go back to whoever the installer was before Consolidated and probably before Fairpoint. Kind of like driving a 1949 car.
Right.
So anyhow,
So you're suggesting we strike this and deal with it in September?
well, I might want to leave it in there in case because I'm kind of shooting from the hip there. I know that, I know because I've talked to them about what they're going to do for me, and what the standard's going to be when they hook somebody up, when they convert somebody who's a telephone user now, they're going to be voice over internet when they convert. So in September, it's an opportunity for us to look at both their internet service, and it may be as early as July, their internet service and their phone service.
Okay.
And then Cliff will complain about how lousy their customer service is.
Yeah. Okay, so is this amount, I know it's a stab in the dark, but are you suggesting we leave this amount or?
Yeah, because we're not a customer of theirs because of Otelco, so they're going to charge us for installation and conversion. Whereas for me, they're going to pull half a mile's worth of fiber cable for free through my conduit. I am so excited.
Okay, so Terry, I'm back to the server, which is the big ticket item here. I thought we just replaced that. Confusing that. I thought we replaced that like last year.
You replaced the internet box thing.
The modem,
The router.
the router.
Just,
We replaced all the computers 3 years ago, and we replaced the router last year.
So what, and when you say speak to me like I'm a 7-year-old. When you say we replaced all the computers, did that include the server?
No, we replaced all the desktops.
So where is the server?
in my office.
And that is a computer, right?
Yes. It
Okay,
just holds, I mean, it's more than a computer. It
It's
holds our brains, so to speak, of the office.
and how old is that?
I have a sheet from Gus who had let's see if that tells me when it was. He just put in,
We're having trouble hearing you, Terry. You're kind of far from the mic, I think.
I don't have enough room. So according to Gus's hardware life cycle report, the server is overdue to be replaced. But it doesn't say when we got it.
Well, I think we got to get in front of the budget committee. I think we need to have a little more info on why, if we're gonna put 11,000 bucks in front of them. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying. I mean, and did we buy the old server from them?
I don't believe so, if it's that old.
Well, we don't know how old it is. Jeff, Walter, thoughts, comments? We can move on.
It looks like it was bought in, no, that's 21. I don't know, I'll see if Gus can tell me. There's one that was bought in 13. I'll see if he can shed light on that, why it's old.
Also, Terry, ask him how far back Microsoft's software upgrades are going to be compatible. Because that's one of the drivers is, if your computer is more than 5 years old, my operating system update is not going to support it, that hardware. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my thinking on it too. If it's still supporting upgrade or updates to the system and we're not having any problems with it, I can tell you that any computer geek is going to tell you need to replace it every 5 years, no matter what. But the reality is that unless you're having issues or you can't support updates, you can keep them for longer. And I don't mind leaving this on the budget, but it's one of the early things that I would say, okay, let's bump that. I'd like to see how the whole budget comes out and what we've got for revenues before I take something like this out.
Okay. Recreation, 1150.
John, I have one more thing, and I'm not sure where it should go, and I thought I put it under admin, but I apparently didn't. Bill and I could use new desks. They're falling apart, and I'm not exactly sure where that should go as an item on the budget.
I would put it under equipment and admin.
Okay,
And I also think we should get rid of some of those chairs in the back room. They're dangerous. I don't know if we need to replace them. We just need to get rid of them. Huh? I see Brian shaking his head there. Truth be known is 2 of them have disappeared over the last year into the back of my pickup and into the transfer station. One of them was like a disaster. But anyways.
I guess I did under equipment, under admin, I put $1,000. Nobody questioned it, so it must be okay.
Okay. All right, so back to recreation. Where are we? 1150. Sorry, struggling here. Okay,
So this, we're gonna be doing our whole big project, so I didn't really know where to go on this one. I did look up new nets and new hoops on Amazon, and I came up with $420. The $1,000.
420 for what? For basketball or tennis or?
For tennis nets, tennis court net, and basketball hoop.
So what's the quantity? One tennis?
2 tennis court nets are $195 each, and 2 basketball hoops that were $15 each.
Okay, and we definitely need tennis court nets. They're in tough shape.
Especially if we're gonna have a brand new tennis court. Or
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but.
they'll be a lot better. The dues, fees and travels, $1,000 for Little League that we helped with. Last year, we had 22 participants at $30 a piece.
Okay, we have a couple of hands up. Walter?
Skateboard park. If we're gonna do something there, remember those, I think those sheets, as I recall, are $250 a piece, except you gotta ship them from California. And I think we need 7 of them, but we'd have to go count them again and assess them. Plus labor. I mean, it's a big job,
It is.
so just wanna make sure that it stays on the radar if nothing happens.
We probably need somebody to give us an estimate. I don't know who we can get.
There's a person in Belfast. I'll do some research.
Okay, and Penny, you got a hand up?
Well, Arthur did put new nets on the hoops, but are you putting money in to put new hoops up? We bought chain nets and put those up last year, so, but that's minor.
Yeah, but and those should last, so.
Yeah.
You know, I'd leave the 420 in because I think that I don't know what you looked at for the tennis court nets, but are they the kind that, are they the compatible kind that have the hitches and stuff that we can put on the winch?
I know nothing about tennis court.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Start at something.
Okay, well, let's leave I suggest we leave the 420 for now, and then when we get back, I'll look at that, and we can look at the nets downstairs. One of the nets is better than the other. We could survive with that. And blah, 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 so. Okay.
I also would like to ask about the playground and doing some mulch in there to replace what's disappeared in the past few years. And I'm not sure if that's recreation or is it buildings and grounds? Is it library? I don't know.
Well, I think it's recreation. I mean, it could be buildings and grounds, but you're talking about the playground at Guilford Butler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Underneath the swings, the slides.
Yeah. Does anybody have an estimate on
I don't, but the library would like to have a couple loads dumped in the community garden area. So I'd be willing to research having the whole project done and maybe we could split it between the library's donations and then recreation.
Well, let's put in a line for now and throw a placeholder number in there. I don't know, I don't really know what it would be. Let's just throw in $500 or something for now.
That sounds good to me. And I also wanted to add that, there's always trash to be removed at the skate park, but once we're in the building, the library will take on removing that when we have our garbage removed
Yeah,
through volunteer effort.
yeah, I agree with you. I've done it a few times myself. And sometimes it gets pretty nasty. So, okay. Anything else now?
Did you want to put a placeholder in for the skateboard park maintenance?
Oh, yeah, I think we should. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't think we can put a number in, but at least get a line in there so we don't, as Walter says, we don't lose sight of it.
Okay, I'll just highlight it in yellow then. So we don't lose it.
I mean, this is always somewhat of a fluid process.
Yep.
Any general thoughts, comments?
Did you want to take a look at the reserves?
Oh, yes. What lines are that on?
1219.
Did I skip that?
No, I did, well, I skipped that. I didn't put it on either agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, we normally handle it under each one of them, but I mean, we already got fire taken care of, but there's a few others that.
Yeah,
need to
sorry
do that.
about that. Okay, so fire pond, we dealt with fire pond, right? Reval reserve. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think we should keep putting some money into that.
I do too. I think my sense is that with the market the way it is right now, they're not only escalating, and as I'm sure you're bored with hearing me saying, as long as everybody's treated fair unequally, we're okay. But if we get out of whack, then I think we got an issue. Fire truck we've dealt with, fire equipment, ambulance. Well, we didn't speak with Amy on that. What? That's down 5. That's down 5.
What? The defib, she did want to do 5,000 for that, but she didn't say anything about the ambulance reserve.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my paper misaligned. Okay, so there's nothing in the ambulance reserve. Is the thought to not replenish that until after the ambulance is paid off? Is that the thinking?
Yes.
The defib?
Well, that was my thinking and Jan's and Cheryl's.
Okay.
Yeah, and I thought that's what had been discussed at a couple of the meetings.
So you said Amy does want the defib, but it's not on here.
I know, because she told me afterwards and I forgot to add it.
Okay, so you want, so that department head column should say 5,000.
Yes.
Is that the right number? Town landing reserve, that's kind of a function of what we estimate the revenue is going to be, right?
Right.
So can you maybe take a look at that?
Yep.
Okay. Paving reserve, whoop,
Oh, I see. I must have put the 5,000 for the in the wrong line
the ambulance?
for the equipment.
Yeah, for the defense.
Even.
Okay, so in other words, that should be zero.
Yeah.
So it nets out, okay. Fire, we done with that. Cemetery, reserve. I'm gonna say it again. That's woefully inadequate, but I'll move on. Other thoughts on that? Okay, building reserve. Fire truck, we double fire, emergency director reserve. 10,000. Is that,
Last year, she said she wanted to get it to 30,000. So we put 30, because we didn't do it in 20 because she was at 30,000 or at 20,000, and she decided 30,000 was a better number. So we put 10,000 in last year, and now she wants to put more into it. And
didn't we take out some for the Island Road? 15 or something like that?
It's at 30,835 right now.
Right,
Yeah.
but that, again, I think you got the same issue. Where there's 15,000, wasn't there, Walter, 15,000 went from this reserve to the Island Road project?
Yes,
So you got the same issue there, Terry, even though it's physically in there, you gotta account for that 15,000.
Okay.
So I'm not cutting you off, Jeff, I'm just adding that to the,
no, I agree, because I did not account for that.
so are we good with the 10?
Yes.
What is it that what is it that we think we are saving for?
An emergency. Disaster. When the island floods.
All right. I understand that. I meant what physically are we gonna buy that's not covered by insurance or?
I don't know.
I'll move on. Okay, I guess that's it then, right? We good?
Well, I do have one more thing, and it has to do with the skate park. But because I think that's going to be a bigger ticket item than, a couple $1,000s.
Oh, I do too.
And I don't think we're going to be able to do it in this budget. So my thinking is that we set up I don't know if we want to make it a recreation reserve or designate the skate park as a separate one, but now with the playground, so we have no reserve for our recreation, and I would recommend that we set something up for that.
I can support that. I mean, if we're gonna have these things, we gotta maintain them. We either gonna have to get rid of them or we gotta maintain them, whether it's the playground or the skateboard park. We can't put these up and then let them go dangerous.
So I'd recommend that we put a recreation reserve and start out at 5,000.
I can support that. Walter? We lose you, Walter?
sorry, I missed that.
Jeff, you want to reiterate?
Yeah, I think we ought to establish a recreation reserve and start out with $5,000 in it, because I don't know what part you didn't hear, but I don't think we're going to be able to repair the skate park in this budget, and I think it's going to be bigger than a couple $1,000s.
I agree. Makes sense.
Yeah, and I just commented that if we're gonna have these things like the playground, tennis courts, the skate park, we've got to keep them in safe shape, or we got to get rid of them. We can't have them and not maintain. So All right, anything else? So what's the step from here? We got some holes to fill. Terry, you're gonna do some research. I'm gonna do I gotta make a couple phone calls. We need to fill in some blanks. Terry, I would request before you send out another copy that we try to fill in as many blanks as we can, so we don't have multiple copies flying around.
Yep.
What's the goal in terms of getting them to the budget committee?
Well, we're meeting with them on the 31st.
Yeah, but I meant, go ahead.
Moira likes to have them as quickly as possible, but I think usually we try to give them a week to look them over.
So when would that be?
I don't have a calendar. Be a week before the 31st would be,
The 24th.
Wow, that's coming fast. Okay, so that's the date we're shooting for. Everybody in concert on that? Do we feel that we need to meet again, or do we think we can just sort of massage this by filling in the holes and then maybe Terry distributing a second draft and comment on that? And we want to take that approach for now, and then if we feel we need to meet again, we can, or?
Yeah, that's what I think is a good approach. I would like to have the a guesstimate on the revenues and what our past revenues have been, as well as the tax levy limit as soon as we can kind of get a number for that.
and I have
What-
the form, I'm waiting for the projected revenue sharing. They haven't released that yet, but I haven't looked in the last week.
Okay, yeah, and that was the other thing, was the state share.
And we won't have the new value until April 1st, right?
Right.
Or after April 1st.
Well, yeah, isn't it? It's as of April 1st, right?
Right,
Does it then have to be
right.
calculated?
Yes, but that doesn't mean he's gonna have it done on April 1st.
Right, that's what I was suggesting.
Although he did say before there weren't a lot of splits. I don't know if we've had and I don't think we've had a ton of permits issued. Because we haven't had a CEO.
Well, when I was talking to Dan the other day, he gave me the impression that there have been a lot of applications for residential construction.
Yeah, but how many of those are gonna have any value on April 1st? I don't know. But that's another piece that we need to get that information to do the levy limit, obviously.
Last year it seemed like we had the budget done and met with the budget committee, and then after that, we, like you guys, we all got together and worked more on the revenues, and then had one more final meeting with them going over the revenues of the budget.
Yeah, but I think Jeff's point is, until you can kind of finalize the expenditure side, you know, you at least wants a sort of an order of magnitude estimate on the revenue side. I don't want to speak for you, Jeff, but I believe that's what you're driving at.
Yeah, exactly. Like right now, I'm showing our total is up about 14%, and that's before we take in any of the other revenues that are out there. So I'm probably more optimistic about this budget than any of the previous ones we've done. But it, you know, devil's in the details, and so I kind of need, and guesstimates are work as well as actual numbers.
Okay. Brian, I would be very interested in at some point talking to you about your option 3 plan. Could I give you a call or something? And at some point in the next couple of days?
That's fine. I'm around. I'm around. The phone's always on.
Okay, yeah, I took a little closer look at that and I just have, I'd like to understand it a little better. So,
Not a problem.
okay, great. Anybody else, anything? Well, this went smoothly today, I think. And we all have our homework assignments, I guess. Jeff's gonna go down and look at the wharf and the landing. And I'm gonna follow up on some things. Walter, you're gonna do a couple of things. I can't remember what they were, but
I'm gonna see if I can find somebody to renovate the skate park.
no, yeah, it was something else though, weren't you gonna? I can't remember, but anyways. All right, is there a motion to, Terry, do you have anything else for us? Terry, did you let Andrew know about, we're not interested in
Yes,
okay, thank you very much. I assumed you did, but, and I got out a brief email about the COVID protocol, so I think we're up to date there, so. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second,
Further discussion? All those in favor, Jeff,
Jeff, I.
Walter,
Aye.
John, I. See you all shortly sometime.